beserta tim proyek Pelabuhan Multipurpose Wai Kelambu mengucapkan Wirama Karya selalu jaya.
Selamat ulang tahun PT Wirama Karya yang ke-60, berkarya untuk Indonesia maju!
Delta Sistek Indonesia is a company agent and licensee of DSI products, Technic and services in Indonesia. Established in Jakarta on 23 April 1996 as a Germany-Indonesian joint venture company
with the name of Citra Daiwadag Systems. On 2001, both shareholders agreed to withdraw the company name, and in return Delta Sistek Indonesia took over Eversense. Delta Sistek Indonesia has established itself as one of the leading companies specialized in construction systems and techniques for both reinforced and pre-stressed concrete structures. We offer our clients comprehensive quality management, which organizes all quality-related activities and bring them together into a quality assurance scheme.
Life is beautiful whenever I am where you are. Life is magical. You cast a spell and fill my sky with stars, and in my heart I know everywhere I go I can hear your laughter. It's happy ever after, 'cause life is beautiful when I feel your hand in mine. Night is wonderful. I feel my heart beat to a different time, 'cause anywhere you lead, that's the place for me. I can only follow for all of our tomorrow.
It is truly an honor for us to be part of your wonderful journey. We are proudly building and perfecting the most sustainable living for you and your family. Places for us to grow together, to cherish your loved ones, to nurture nature, to serve your every need, and to support your business. We devote our integrity and commitment to providing impeccable quality and the best living experience, and maintaining the trust that you have given us. We create sustainable living and business.
We invest in infrastructure, energy, and in property to contribute to the nation's development. Our construction business lines include buildings, infrastructure, EPC. We are committed to providing a range of high-quality specialist services, providing solutions for precast concrete production needs. We provide all the equipment to support construction activities. What we do today will have an impact on tomorrow. It is how we can ensure that tomorrow will be better and more sustainable.
Indonesia mengalami pembangunan infrastruktur yang cepat dan modern, terutama di era milenium. Union Metal dibangun pada tahun 1972 di Jakarta. Dengan bangga, turut berpartisipasi dalam pembangunan tersebut. Pabrik Union Metal kini berdiri di atas tanah seluas 6,2 hektar di kawasan industri Jababeka dan 3 hektar di kaki Gunung Penanggungan di Ngoro Industrial Park, Jawa Timur, mampu menghasilkan fabrikasi metal yang berkualitas tinggi. Pengembangan usaha Union Metal telah dimulai sejak tahun 1980. Dengan dibelinya mesin-mesin produksi berkualitas dari Eropa, maka pabrik ini mampu menghasilkan produk unggulan seperti wire mesh dengan kapasitas hingga 5.000 ton per bulan. Produk-produk unggulan Union Metal antara lain adalah wire mesh, floor deck, atap metal, genteng metal, Union Truss, C-channel, dan siku lubang. Untuk mendapatkan sebuah desain produk yang efektif mengikuti penerapan misi dan visi, setiap produk Union Metal harus melalui fase research and development terlebih dahulu. Produk tersebut diuji coba sampai tercapai kualitas yang terukur. Union Metal menerapkan metode kerja dan produk yang telah diakui oleh standar internasional, terlihat dengan berhasilnya perusahaan mendapatkan berbagai macam ISO untuk sistem penggarapan mutu dan hasil produksinya. Produk-produk kami telah dipergunakan di berbagai bangunan, baik perumahan maupun gedung-gedung perkantoran dan bangunan modern lainnya. Kami menyadari kekuatan kami ada di ketahanan dan kualitas produk kami, sehingga kami tidak ragu untuk menyapa dunia, bekerja sama dengan pelanggan kami dalam membangun dan menyongsong masa depan.
PT Wijaya Karya Bangunan Gedung or Wika Gedung is one of the companies under PT Wijaya Karya Persero, which is established in October 24, 2008. Our vision is acting as the chosen partner to creating space for better humans' life. And our mission to commit to keep customers' trust as a capital to face competitiveness to create high-quality products and services. Life caring, stakeholders engagement, good corporate governance, and business ethic practices, and innovation to increase growth and to create value. Wika Gedung is the best chosen partner to build building construction. Throughout its corporate history, Wika Gedung has had satisfying track record, both experience and performance, that are profitable for shareholders. This is in line with the corporate's main target to be world-class building contractor. By positioning itself as a total solution contractor, Wika Gedung provides integrated construction services using advanced technology to give comprehensive construction work solution by upholding safety and quality. Wika Gedung has developed solutions and precast or prefab building through backward integration approach to strengthen supply chain or company core business. To develop forward integration business, Wika Gedung focuses on business development through property business towards investment and concession to gain from recurring income through concession scheme and BOT or build, operate, transfer. Has been succeeded in completing various projects, Wika Gedung has promising future business prospect. Those achievements are resulted from hard work of the whole corporate member that optimally contributed to guard customers' confidence and continual innovation. Therefore, the products meet and even above the expectation of the customers. In line with the company's motto, creating space for better humans' life. Wika Gedung has run its business for years and received various achievements. As a part of Wika Group that operates all over Indonesia, Wika Gedung is recognized and trusted as contractor in construction industry in Indonesia. The achievement of Wika Gedung from year to year has increased significantly. Wika Gedung has developed its business capacity through the initial public offering or IPO plan, as well as transforming as public company.
This is the journey of our dedication, commitment, alongside the nation to build the dreams. It begins from Kali Berantas expansion project in East Java, Indonesia. Since 1980, history justified that PT Berantas Abipraya were the first BUMN Karya that officially created by Indonesia government. Since that day, we were being inseparable part from Indonesia development. We learned, growing and transforming, become the living company that surely proven can step up and facing the challenge. Raised reputation that built through integrity and professionalism has bring the trustworthiness of domestic and international market to handle national strategic and prestigious projects. The global competition demand an efficient and effective technology by utilizing building information modeling or BIM and support it with lean construction, ensure every project that we handled is precisely planned, digitized, connected, and synergize every essential element. The latest technology that we applied, demanding higher standard and more dynamic human resource. The interrelation between the technology growth and adaptive human resource is the key to innovations of every construction work that we developed. We believe the harmony of technology and skill regeneration will evolve the way of thinking and sculpting a process-oriented character. And it reflects our core value, akhlak. Well known with the holistic services construction company, which capable handling national strategic projects, currently PT Brantas Abipraya supported with 7 business units and 1 subsidiary that are productively and independently strengthen PT Brantas Abipraya position as one of the best construction company in the market. Abipraya Sumber Daya Air. Abipraya Gedung. Abipraya Infrastruktur. Abipraya Beton. Abipraya Alat. Abipraya Property. Abipraya Tol. At PT Brantas Energi. The existence of PT Brantas Abipraya in construction industry scene is also noticeable from the company involvement and various public partnership projects, such as Cisumdawu Toll Road, Problowangi Toll Road, Jalintim Sumatra Preservation Activity in South Sumatra Province. Our journey and experience has brought us to the acknowledged from various entities. It pushed our spirit further, a commitment to bring out the best potential of nation. For us, every appreciation is a form of responsibility to synergize with the society to build a better life quality through sustainable infrastructure that always side by side with the nation dreams.
Oke, good afternoon, selamat malam semuanya. Selamat datang di acara International BIM Workshop ICEE 2022 dengan CYPE Software. Perkenalkan, let me introduce myself. Nama saya Dwika Firmandi Bukhari dan saya akan menjadi pemandu acara teman-teman di workshop hari ini nih. Nah, sebelum kita mulai, jadi kan pada hari ini kita bakal belajar bersama-sama nih tentang salah satu software BIM yang sering digunakan di dunia konstruksi, yaitu CYPE Software. Workshop hari ini bakal ada sesi pemaparan materi, habis itu juga ada sesi tanya jawab di mana teman-teman bisa ngobrol langsung dengan salah satu representatif dari CYPE Software. Untuk teman-teman yang punya pertanyaan, nanti selama keberlangsungan workshop, teman-teman bisa menyampaikan pertanyaannya pada slido yang nanti ada disediakan melalui kolom chat atau raise hand pada sesi tanya jawab kepada aku, supaya aku bisa mempersilakan teman-teman untuk nanya langsung ke instruktur kita hari ini, yaitu dari CYPE Software. Nah, peserta juga diharapkan untuk bisa mengunduh software serta guidelines yang telah dikirimkan nanti via chat Zoom. Nah, selain itu, di akhir acara kita bakal ada hal yang seru banget, yaitu there will be a door prize with a value of Rp500.000, Rp500,000 total untuk peserta yang beruntung nih. Dan untuk mendapatkan door prize, jangan lupa untuk mengisi form absensi dan menggunakan virtual background yang telah dikirimkan oleh panitia ICEE dalam kolom chat. Nah, before we start, there are some rules in this forum, in this Zoom meeting, supaya kita semua bisa mengalami pengalaman yang menyenangkan ya. Kita juga kondusif dan enak. Jadi aku mau izin untuk bacain peraturan dulu nih buat hari ini. Jadi pertama, peserta diharapkan menggunakan nama asli di dalam Zoom dan hadir sebelum acara dimulai. Jadi untuk teman-teman yang namanya masih nama device atau mungkin nama yang masih ada hal-hal lainnya, boleh dipersilakan ganti menjadi nama asli teman-teman. Kemudian kedua, peserta diharapkan untuk tidak on mic apabila belum aku perkenankan nih. Jadi supaya peserta yang lain nggak keganggu dengan suara-suara noise atau mungkin nggak sengaja, pastikan teman-teman sudah dalam posisi muted atau off mic. And then ketiga, peserta dapat menyampaikan pertanyaannya secara langsung di Zoom pada sesi Q&A atau melalui slido yang disediakan oleh panitia ICEE 2022. Nah, kalau untuk teman-teman yang nanya melalui langsung direct to the instructor, nah teman-teman diharapin buat raise hand setelah aku persilakan baru on mic, and then boleh teman-teman langsung tanyakan aja apa pertanyaan teman-teman. Keempat, peserta tidak diperkenankan menyebarkan link Zoom ini, this link Zoom, to any other platforms. Jangan pernah disebar supaya ini tetap a special thing between us lah ya. Oke, and then last but not least, peserta wajib mengisi form presensi dan form feedback untuk memperoleh sertifikat kepesertaan. Kalau misalnya teman-teman nggak ikut, you will not receive your certificate. Nah, I think that's enough buat peraturan hari ini lah ya. Nah, setelah itu aku mau ngasih brief introduction dulu tentang instruktur kita hari ini. Jadi seperti teman-teman yang udah tahu, hari ini kita bakal didatangi oleh salah satu representatif dari salah satu software BIM atau BIM terkemuka di dunia, yaitu Mr. David Didios dari CYPE Software. Nah, CYPE is a company specializing in development and distribution of technical software for architecture, engineering, and construction purposes nih. CYPE Software is an industry leader with over 120,000 users across the world, and today we are happy to tell you guys that ICEE has invited CYPE Software to share a few things with us. Now, today we have Mr. David Didios, a representative from CYPE Software who is also a development technician at CYPE. Mr. David is a graduate from Universidad de Alcant with a bachelor in architecture, and he is going the person who is going to share us a couple of things from CYPE software. So without further ado, let me introduce Mr. David Didios. And so, hello, Mr. David. How are you today?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh, how are you feeling?
We're having quite a sunny day here in Spain, and I'm very lucky to be here with you all to share what we do here at CYPE and to give you our solutions for structural analysis, all linked to BIM Server Center, our BIM solution.
Oh, I'm sure our attendants today are very excited to hear what you have to say, and I hope that you are excited as well. So without any other things that I'd like to say, so let me hand the stage over to you. So you may start your presentation right now. Thank you, Mr. David.
Thank you very much. Okay, so as the MC has said, our company is mostly centered around software for architecture, engineering, and construction. And as you can see here, up until now, we have over 150 applications for all things structural, building facilities, project management, and so on. And today what we're going to see is our main solution for reinforced concrete, that is CYPE. And I'm going to show you a series of steps to start your project from start all the way to the finish with the final reports, the structural analysis, and the interactions that you could have with BIM Server Center, our solution for all things BIM. So without further ado, if you allow me, I'll show you, first of all, what is going to be our main focus today, and it's going to be the structure that I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you step by step how we could model this inside CYPE, which is our main tool for all things reinforced concrete, for all kinds of buildings like commercial and residential buildings, as well as even short span bridges. Okay, so let me open our launcher here. And from this launcher here, we can start a new project in CYPE. Let's create a new project. And this software allows you to either import this data from other applications that are able to export IFC files. And as you can see here, when we start a project, this is the first thing that asks us is we wanted to link it to a BIM Server Center project. And in case we were to have any more information, like for example, the architectural definition of our building, like this one right here, we would be able to start with an IFC file that contains most of the information of our structure. And from then on, we could continue with the structural analysis inside CapSite. But today, what I'm going to show you is that we can also work with other workflows. That is, if we wanted to, we could start with an empty project and model our structure from zero directly inside CYPE. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start an empty project. And the first thing that we have to do is that we have to set the technical code that we're going to use for our structure. As you can see here, we have multiple codes for all kinds of construction materials and from all around the world, like, for example, the USA, European Union, Singapore, Malaysia, United Kingdom, Peru, Russia. And so it's a matter of selecting the technical code that you're going to use for your project. In this case, if you allow me, I will use the Euro code. And once you have selected the code, we can continue and select which building materials we're going to use. As you can see, once I have selected my technical code, I am able to select a series of predefined concrete, steel, and steel sections from a library that is by default with the program. And I can select a series of materials for each individual construction element, like floor slabs, foundations, columns, walls. And in case my building material it's not by default preloaded in CYPE, I can create my very own concrete library, for example, as well as my very own steel library with very different sections for rolled steel or cold formed steel. So once we have set the properties of our building materials, we can continue with the definition of the loads. The program automatically takes care of all the dead loads and live loads, and the final analysis is being put forward in regards to all the specifications of the technical code that we have selected here, the building code that we have selected here. So we can take into account, for example, the wind loading, which as well has a series of building codes from around the world. So it's a matter of selecting your country here, and as you can see, it automatically preloads all the different configurations that are required for that specific building code. Or we could even work with a general method, and from then on, create our very own wind loads in regards to this analytical model that we have here. Same thing would apply, for example, with seismic loadings. We have a series of building codes in regards to structural safety and seismic loads from around the world, as you can see. And it's the same, it's just a matter of selecting the one that we're going to work with. And in case we don't have it, we can create our very custom one here in the analytical model. So once we have our loads ready, we can even go as far as to set additional load cases for our specific needs. As you can see, the program automatically creates dead loads, live loads, but if we wanted, we could add additional ones for our specific use case. So once we have all of this ready, we can create our model right now. Let's click accept, and we're greeted with this main interface that, as you can see, it's divided between these tabs here on the bottom left. We would start first with a column definition, that is all the vertical elements. And once we finish with the column definition, we can switch to the bin definition, and from then on go floor by floor, defining all the different slabs and building materials that we're going to use. So in this case, what we're going to do is that we're going to add some new floors, and we have to bear in mind that SiteCAD works mostly in a 2D fashion, so it depends on the number of floors that we have selected for the introduction. So in this case, for example, we're going to introduce 2 floors. It's going to be, for example, 3 meters high, and each one of them is going to have a live load and a dead load. That is a surface load that is distributed accordingly throughout all the surface of our floor, and it's going to be uniform. So for example, let's add here some 2 kilonewtons by square meter, and once we're happy with that, we can start introducing vertical elements. We could work with an empty workspace like this, or if we wanted to, we could insert a template. A template is a DXF or DWT file that we have made previously with other programs, and it allows you to have a basic overview of what you're going to introduce later in the model. That's something to have as a reference. I've already done this in another file, so allow me to show you what I'm talking about. As you can see here, with the template manager, I have imported some templates that have been made in a DWT file, and I've linked them to this floor view here in the column definition. And I'm going to use this as a helping hand to start introducing our vertical elements. So let's start with new columns, and as you can see here, we can get into the very nitty-gritty details of our elements. We can set the final group and the initial group, the width and height of each section, and if we wanted to, we can get into very specific details, like for example, fixity coefficients, the axial stiffness coefficients, the concrete resistance for each section, and so on. And we can work with many different kinds of building materials. Of course, SiteCAD is optimized for reinforced concrete structures, but if we wanted to, we could even complement it with, for example, rolled steel or core foam steel sections, as you can see here, or even wood, or even our very own construction material. As you can see here, we can set a generic construction material with a series of physical properties, as you can see here. In this case, I'm going to work with reinforced concrete, so I'm going to leave everything just as is. And as you can see here, now I can introduce freely all the elements that I want to. And we have these helping hands here, these auxiliary lines that help us introduce all these vertical elements. If I were to enable the template object snap, you'll see that my cursor will automatically snap to the drawing that I have inserted previously, helping greatly with the introduction process, as you can see here, of all the data. And I can go on and fix any errors that I may have had in the introduction of this data, thanks to the insertion points that you can see here. These insertion points allows you to customize your reference point for your vertical element. As you can see here, by default is in the middle of our section. Imagine that this square is the middle section of our column here. And if you wanted to, we can switch it to these borders right here, to these end parts right here, like so. And we can customize the appearance and the introduction of this element in regards to its insertion point and so on. I'm not going to bore you with the details, so let's switch to another file, and I'm going to show you how all the vertical elements would look like once we have inserted them all. And so we will have something like this. As you can see, we have used the templates that I was talking about before. We just have turned them off. And now that we have our vertical elements ready, we can continue with the horizontal elements, so to speak. That is, we're going to change from this tab to this other tab called BIM definition. And here we can cycle throughout all the different floors that we have inserted, as you can see. And we're going to start with the foundations of our building. To do so, what we're going to do is that we're going to go here to the foundations tab, and we're going to select the foundation elements tool. Let's insert, for example, some path footings. And as you can see, we can work with many different kinds of path footings, like, for example, mass concrete footings, pile caps, or in this case, reinforced concrete footings. We can work with single column elements, or we can work with multiple column elements. That is, introducing a path footing that contains 2 or more columns, like the ones we're seeing right here. In this case, I'm going to work with single column elements, and it works exactly the same as with the column definition. You can see now that my cursor has changed appearance, and depending on where I center it, I can get one path footing or the other. So for example, I can get centered ones, or I can get slanted ones, like the ones that you can see right here. Once I finish with the path footings, I can continue with the strap and tie beams. As you can see, the cursor automatically snaps to all the construction elements that I have. And once I have selected the beam that I want to work with, it's as easy as setting my cursor on top of the building element, and it will automatically snap to it. So as you can see, it's as easy as introducing all these beams like so. Let's see how the finished product would look like. And we'll have something like this. As you can see here, we have inserted path footings, beams, and we have customized the different sizes of these elements. You don't have to care about the sizing of the elements right now, because what we are doing is that we are inserting an analytical model of the structure, and later the program will automatically size everything for us. That means both the geometrical properties of each individual element, as well as the reinforced rebar that each element is going to have. All of that will be done automatically by the program. We can also add more horizontal elements, like, for example, this foundation wall, and work exactly the same as you would imagine for the beams. In this case, we select the wall that we want to introduce, like, for example, reinforced concrete walls. And it's as easy as setting which kind of foundation is it going to have. And we can even add pressure diagrams in case we're working underground, so we can take into account the pressure of the ground, as well as the water level and other pressures that can be transmitted into this element. As you can see here, we can add our custom pressure diagram, and we can adapt it to the different situations that we can have. In this case, the loads that are going to be added for this scheme are going to be defined by values that we have preloaded and that have been obtained previously in laboratory tests. As you can see here, we have different soil types like gravel, silt, clay, sand, and so on. And once we have all of this ready, we can do just like we have done before and insert our elements like so. Okay. Okay, so now that we have our foundations ready, we can jump up to the next level and continue with the first floor. So to do that, let me first jump to the next group, have a group here. And now we can continue with the definition of the beams. We have to first define a series of beams, so the program will be able to introduce panels between those beams. As you can see here, we have many different kinds of beams available by default, like for example, flat beams, drop beams, lattice beams, as well as non-structural limits in case we wanted them, or foundation beams, like the ones I have inserted previously in the foundations tab. And once we select the family that we want, we can select the type that is contained in that family. As you can see here, depending on which family I'm picking right now, I can select many different kinds of types right here. Like for example, in this case, a flat rectangular beam, or if I wanted to, I could select a flat T-beam, a flat beam with a right flange, or with an under flange like this one. And it's as easy as setting the width that we're going to work with, like for example, in this case, 30 centimeters. And with all of that, we will be able to start introducing our data here. And just like before, the cursor will automatically snap to all the construction elements that we have here. So it is very easy to start setting up our slab like so. Once we have a panel defined by a series of horizontal elements like beams, you will see that we get this question mark, and that is because a panel has been automatically generated. And so we can define how our panel is going to work. So in this case, all we have to do is go here to the slabs panel manager tool and define our panel. Just like we did before with the beams and the columns, you can see that we have a wide range of building materials preloaded into the software, and we could work with joist floor slabs, for example, as well as hollow core slabs, composite slabs, waffle slabs, flat slabs, or even mat foundations if we were to work, for example, with a panel that is directly in contact with the ground, with the soil. In this case, for example, let's work with joist floor slabs. Let's select the one that we want to insert, like for example, this one, reinforced joist floor. And as you can see, we can either work with libraries that can be easily transferred from one project to the other, or we can create our very own by geometrical properties. Let's create our very own by geometrical properties. Let's give it a reference, and we can customize the different geometries that you can see right here. Like for example, the rib spacing, the form depth, the compression layer thickness, and so on. As you can see, we are working with a very flexible tool. And so once we are content with how we're going to define this floor slab, we can click accept, and we will be able to turn this panel that is awaiting definition into a defined panel, like so. We could also continue adding some more beams in case we wanted them, for example, like so. And if we wanted to, we can also insert voids into our panel, and that would be as easy as setting a series of beams to delimit, to set the bounding area of our void, and from then on, with the panel manager here, slabs panel manager, we can enter an opening like so. Now that we have this floor ready, we can continue with the nitty-gritty details, that is the loads that we're going to put into the model, besides the ones that the program automatically generates. So if you allow me, I will switch to another file right here, and you will see what I'm talking about. Here we have our basic slab, and what we're going to do is that we're going to add a series of loads. If you go here to the load manager, we'll be able to add either point loads, light loads, or surface loads. By default, we're working with kilonewtons by square meter, but in case you wanted to, you could switch the units that you're using for your project in the main tools here. As you can see, we have both the international system of units as well as US customary units. So it's really up to you. Let's go back here to the load manager. And for example, let's insert a point load that it's going to be assigned to a specific load case. In this case, we're going to set it to general use, for example. Or if we wanted to, we could add a specific load case, like the ones that I have shown you at the beginning of this presentation. Let's click new, and now my cursor will be able to insert punctual loads, point loads at will, like so. Same thing would apply, for example, for line loads. In this case, we're talking about uniform loads, and as you can see, we're working with kilonewtons by meter. We could also work, for example, with trapezoidal loads, triangular loads, setting an initial value and a final value if you wanted to, for example, like this one. And just like we did before, we have to set it to a specific load case. Let's say, for example, that this linear load is going to simulate the action of our masonry walls of our facade around the building, like this. And last but not least, we also have surface loads. And surface loads, as you will see, work exactly the same as point loads and line loads. Just that instead of working with your usual kilonewtons per square meter, we can work with many other ones, like the ones I've shown you before. Let's add a new surface load. And as you can see, it has the whichever shape we wanted to. In this case, I'm working with orthogonal mode, but I could work freely, like so. And once I'm finished with the loads, I could continue with another special kind of load, and that is the stairs. After all, the stairs in a reinforced concrete building are also a structural element and can be discretized, can be turned into an analytical model, into a linear load. And the program also takes into account that it is a structural element, sizing and checking all the rebar inside the staircase. Let me show you. Let's introduce a staircase here. And as you can see here, we have first the definition of the geometry. If it's going to have a rotation, and we can set as well the number of spans that we would like for our staircase. We have some preloaded, like these ones that you can see right here, or we could create our very own if we wanted to. As you may imagine, we are talking about a very flexible, very customizable tool that allows you to introduce many different kinds of typologies, like the ones that we are seeing right here. So it's really up to the engineer to set all the different properties of this element. In this case, for example, I'm going to work with this one. And we're going to introduce it, for example, on top of this beam right here. It is very important that the staircase finishes and starts on top of a beam, because the beam is going to be the load-bearing element. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert it right here, and I'm going to set the orientation. It's going to be this one, for example. And now that we have finished with this, we could continue, as you may imagine, going on and on with the rest of the horizontal elements for each individual group. If you recall correctly, we have inserted more groups in this building, and with a panel manager, if you recall correctly, we can insert many different kinds of floors of floor slabs, like the ones I have shown you before, joist core slabs, waffle slabs, and so on. Let me show you how the final result would look like, just so you get an idea. Okay, as you can see here now, we have all the loads that we have inserted previously. And if we switch to the 3D view, we have the definition that I have shown you at the beginning of this presentation, with all the foundations, the vertical elements, the slabs, the stairs, and so on. So now that we have finished with the introduction of the model, we can continue with the analysis of this model. I've already done this off camera because it may take up a couple of minutes depending on your machine. And once we have the analysis ready, we can be able to generate a series of reports and drawings. The reports can be easily customizable, as you can see here. We have quantities reports, text of beams and columns, stairs, column displacements, or we could create our very own, like this one right here, selecting all the chapters that we would like to introduce, that is. I've generated this report before. I'm going to show you how it looks like. As you can see, this is a very fast way of getting your final results ready, and you could easily take this document and send it to the authorities to get your building permits, as well as your construction team to start developing your project right now. It is a very complete assessment of all the different elements that we have inserted into the analytical model. And as you can see here, it is a very complete stamp of all the internal analysis that has been put forward by our engine. We work with a finite elements engine. And as you can see here, it takes into account all the different geometrical entities that we have inserted, and it has turned them into reinforcements, as well as all the different checks that has been put forward in regards to the building code that we have selected at the beginning of this presentation. And as well as generating reports, we can also generate drawings, that is, all the different construction details that we're going to send to our construction team to put forward this project. TypeCAD automatically generates all this information, and as you can see, we can create different details, like for example, the detailing of columns, a column schedule, frame drawings, layout plans, and so on. We can also automatically add a title block that we can create our very own, or we can import them and export them from other projects. And if we wanted to, this would be the end of our project. We could easily create these drawings and send them to our building team, and that would be it. Let's give it a minute so it can generate the drawings. I'm going to show you what the software is capable of doing. Okay, it is almost ready. And here we got it. Let's draw all the details. And as you can see, we can have customizable drawings of our columns, as well as our beams, and the rest of the layouts that I was talking about before. All of this can be easily exported into a PDF file, or it could be exported into a DXF or DWT file in case you wanted to edit it with other third-party software for drafting. I've already printed this in a PDF file, and I'm going to show you now final results. But now you may be asking, okay, the program does all the sizing automatically, But what if I wanted to edit this rebar inside all my different building materials? Well, you can do that if you wanted to. TypeCut allows you to get part of your workload uploaded into a computer. But if you wanted to, you could customize all the different construction elements. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's close this. And if we go here to the results tab, you will see that we have all the rebar automatically calculated by the program, automatically sized and checked in regards to the building code. And it tells us if the different elements that we have inserted comply or do not comply with the code. Like, for example, this beam right here is marked red. That means that it does not comply. So if we wanted to, we could edit the rebar so it can comply. And we can see exactly why it does not comply. So let's edit here, edit beams, edit this beam here. And we get this interface that allows you to see all the different checks that have been put forward. And the disposition of all the rebar that has been automatically generated. And if we wanted to, we can add our own rebar right here. As you can see, we can add either longitudinal reinforcement, for example, with all the different diameters preloaded by the construction material library that we have selected at the beginning of this project. And we could also add, for example, skin reinforcements as well. As well as changing, for example, the stirrups, the transverse reinforcement, that is. We could divide it, or we can match them, or we can get rid of them if we wanted to. And as you can see here, each time that we have an error in our calculus, the program tells us why and in regards to which article of the building code that we are using is it being the offending part, so to speak. For example, in this case, we are not in compliance with Article 7.3.3 of the Eurocode. And so once we have customized the rebar inside our beams, we would be able to reanalyze our project and then generate the drawings. You can also, if you wanted to, switch to this other tab here, the contour plots, and get a very visual graphical display of how our elements are being used throughout all the structure right here. And we can see displacements as well as forces, steel areas, and so on. For example, let's see the displacements in the z-axis for this combination right here. We can select different load cases and combinations as well. And we can even analyze how this specific slab is being displaced in the z-axis between 2 points, as you can see here. Very useful when you're working, for example, with waffle slabs, given that it's a very specific type of slab, and it's not as easy as setting a specific requirement for the second deflection, as you can see here. And with all of this done, we would be able to export all of this data into BIM Server Center if you wanted to. At the beginning of this presentation, I have shown you here BIM Server Center, and this is our main hub for all things BIM. And it is free to use, and we have up to 150 applications for reinforced concrete structures, steel structures, but also we have tools for electrical systems, HVAC systems, telecommunications, fire safety, acoustic analysis, and so on. And in case that we were working, for example, with the BIM Essentials, which are completely free of charge, we could have a basic definition of our architecture made with CYPE architecture, which is completely free of charge. And for example, for this building, I have modeled it here in CYPE architecture. And as you can see, it allows me to share this model into a BIM Server Center project. I've already exported this to a project in BIM Server Center, and I have shared it with my colleague Maria, which will be attending the next seminar in this series of seminars for MEP solutions. Now that I have here my architectural model exported into an IFC file, I am able to import it into CypCAD if I wanted to. So let me show you how you can do that. Let's create a new file. For example, let's name it IFC import. And if you recall correctly, at the beginning of this demonstration, I have unlinked it to a BIM Server Center project. But if I want to, I can link it to a project, select an existing one, or create a new one from here. In this case, I'm going to select this project right here. And what it's going to do is that it's going to import the architecture that we have uploaded here into BIM Server Center into this project right here. Let's click accept. And as you can see here, we have this wizard, this assistant that allows us to transform all these basic geometrical entities that do not contain structural data into native entities that will be treated by CypCAD. We have our model here ready. So let's go on and select which levels we can import and how we are going to map our structure for the columns. For example, in this case, we have this stack right here, reinforced concrete 50 by 25, that has been imported from CyPE architecture. See, we have this type here called C50 times 25. And it has automatically imported it here with this tag. And we can set which kind of section it's going to have. Same thing applies for the beams, because this model right here, if I were to turn up the layers, you will see what I'm talking about. We are getting a very bare bones model, and all these elements that I'm selecting here, which have been modeled with type architecture, will be imported into CypCAD. Same thing applies, for example, for the beams. We have this section right here with this tag that has been imported from type architecture. We have here in the description B50, and this is the tag that has been imported into CypCAD. And we can link it to one of the native elements or the native entities that we have in CypCAD. And as you can see, it's exactly the same menu that we have been using before with the manual introduction of our elements. Same thing would apply for the floor slabs. We can import them or we can left them behind. And last but not least, we can also import all the different walls in case we're going to take into account the loads, both for the wind loads and the seismic loads, as well as for the linear loads that each wall contains. For example, let's leave it like so. Let's finish. And the program will automatically import our model right here. And just like that, we can start our project with most of the architecture already imported. So basically, if you're working with an architect or you want to create a very extensive project like this one right here, and you want to work with up to maybe 100 people if you wanted to. I have a project here in my gallery, for example, in which we have over 50 people. Let me show you. Here in the work team, you can see we have 50 people working on this project, for example, and each one has a role and an assigned area, so we can all collaborate on the same building right here. And so it's a matter of doing the same that we have done previously. So let's click accept. Let's set some live loads and dead loads for our building, like so. Let's click accept once more. And if we go to the 3D view, you will see what I'm talking about. Here we go. As you can see, all the vertical and horizontal elements have been imported from the model that we have generated previously in type architecture. And all the walls have been turned into load-bearing elements, as you can see here. All the beams, all the columns have been imported as well. And the only thing that we have to do here in CYPE is basically add the final touches, the cherry on top, if you want to call it that. So now, as you can see, the panels are awaiting definition, and it's just a matter of going one by one and setting which kind of panel we want to work with. Very simple stuff. If you recall correctly, it's a matter of going to slabs, panel manager, define panel, select the panel that we're going to work with. And just like that, in a couple of minutes, you will have your structure ready to be analyzed and generate all the reports and drawings. And let's not forget, given the fact that it is connected to BIM Server Center, we will be able to reap the benefits of the Open BIM universe. For example, if we wanted to link it to a project so we can generate a quantities and a budget report, we can use more other tools that we have, like, for example, Open BIM Quantities, which allows you to take the IFC file and turn it into a database of costs and later generate all your reports for budgeting and so on. Or you can work with other tools, like, for example, Type 3D, which allows you to create steel structures, and you can mix both the steel structures that you have generated in Type 3D and import them into CypCAD. Like, for example, I've generated this structure right here in Type 3D, which is another one of our tools that we have for steel structures. And I have generated a podium in CypCAD, as you will see here. Let's switch to the BIM definition, 3D view, and you will see what I'm talking about. I've used this tool right here called 3D structures, integrated 3D structures, and I have imported this structure here from Site 3D, which has been modeled on a 3D space freely, as you can see here. This is meant for very specific tools. Sorry, for very specific projects, for very singular projects like this one. And then I have generated a podium with CyCAD made with reinforced concrete. And I've used the 3D structures, the integrated 3D structures tool, to add this structure on top of the reinforced concrete one here in CyPE. So as you may imagine, reaping the benefits of the BIM technology, we can export our data to a project here in BIM Server Center, and from then on we can collaborate with more tools available on BIM Server Center, and we can work with more colleagues that we can add freely here in our work team. We are now jumping into the fourth industrial revolution, and our main building material is information. So let's not get caught in the past, and let's jump onto the train of the BIM construction and the four-dimensional design. One of the main benefits of working with Sensor Center is that besides being able to share our project with multiple people and work with very big teams like the ones that you can see right here, you can also reap the benefits of having a series of free applications as well as paid ones from the store. And you can even work with visualization tools, like, for example, VR tools that we have developed completely free of charge for tablets as well as phones and desktop computers, as you can see here. So forget about creating models for your structures and start using our free visualization tools like the ones I'm showing right now to impress your clients as well as communicate better with the construction team on site. Also, one of the main benefits of working with projects in BIM Server Center is that we have BIM management tools built into the project. So, for example, in this case, if we want to run clash detections or if we want to send reports to other colleagues right here, we can do so with the notifications panel right here. We could create easily issues and we can share them with our colleagues, setting the IFC file that is causing the issue, as well as description, and even some additional files. You can also keep a history of all the different changes that have been made into the project, and we can roll back in case we wanted to revert to an earlier version, or we want to solve all the requirements that are pending, as well as the issues. We have a 3D viewer already inserted into the Server Center, so you can see in real time how your project is going on, and so multiple people can keep track visually of all the project and how is being put forward. As you can see here, we can work with multiple layers because we're working with federated models. Let me show you another example so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. In this project, if we go to the Contents tab, you will see that we have a series of IFC files that contain structural data, which has been made with CYPE, but we can also have electrical, plumbing, fireproofing, and so on. You can also manage the proposals as well. And as I've shown you before, we can also edit the roles and the assigned areas for each contributor. In fact, I'm going to share with you a link to this project. So in case you want to see how the project starts developing between this session and the next session that is going to be made by my colleague Maria, you can do so with this link right here. I'm going to share this link into the chat. So in case you want to see the project or collaborate as spectators, you can do so at will. Now you will have this link here in the chat. And let's remind that BIM Server Center is completely free of charge, and you can start collaborating and starting all your projects right now. It's as easy as setting up your account. And from then on, you will be able to reap all the benefits of our store, as well as the capabilities that we have, sharing all the IFC files between all the different programs, both made by CYPE and by other distributors as well, through our projects here in BIM Server Center. Are we good on time?
Yeah, yeah, sir. We still have like around 10 minutes left if you still want to continue your presentation.
Well, the main focus of this presentation is CYPE, but as you can see, we also have more tools for structures. In this case, I've shown you Site 3D, and Site 3D is meant mostly for freeform structures like the ones I am showing you right now. We can work on a 3D space, and we can create our very own workflow. If you can work with CYPE, you can also work with Site 3D. In this case, you will see, for example, that when we edit the general data of our project, it works exactly the same as with CyPE, and it doesn't have a very steep learning curve, as you can see. Works exactly the same with all the different codes from around the world for all the different construction materials, as well as all the flexible loads that we can insert into the model. The main difference is that in Site 3D, you have to manually set all the different loads. So for example, in this case, if we wanted to add a load to this model, which has been generated with nodes and bars, we will have to go to the Loads tab, and here into the tool, introduce loads on bars. For example, here I have inserted some loads, as you can see, and they are linear loads that are being transmitted from the panels that are defined by this edit right here. We can customize it to our liking, and we can add panels as well. For example, if we go here to loads, we can introduce panels, and these panels are freely introduced, as you can see. We can either comply with what the limits of our structure really prefers, or we can set it freely like so. We can set a distribution on its main axis like so, and we can add load cases from the different hypotheses that we have here in the load cases that we have set at the beginning of the project. So it's really up to the engineer to either use CyPE or Site 3D. I would personally recommend CyPE if you want to work with buildings like this one right here. That is a reinforced concrete structures for residential and commercial buildings. But if you wanted to, we could also work with Site 3D in case you wanted to work with industrial or more specific, more special buildings like the ones that we're seeing right now. The program works exactly the same as with CyPE, and that means that once that we have the analytical model already inserted into our project, we can make an analysis, and so the program will automatically size all those bars. We can manually set the definition of these bars if we wanted to. For example, we can describe this position as well as the material, the section, and the layout of each one. We have a very vast and wide material selection pre-built by default, as you can see, both with rolled steel, cold form steel, aluminium, concrete, and so on. You can work with preloaded sections, or you can create your very own, just like what we did in CyPE. And the drawings and the analysis for the final results, as you may imagine, is quite different from CyPE because we're working with structures made mostly with nodes and bars. So once we have analyzed our project, we will have a series of reports like the ones that we have generated before with CyPE. And we have a series of drawings that will be made automatically for the unions. Site 3D automatically generates the unions for a project, but in case you're working with a very specific idea in mind, you can work with another one of our tools available at BIM Service Center, and that is Site Connect still. With Site Connect, you can create all different kinds of custom unions. and it is introduced into the Open BIM workflow through BIM Server Center. So what I have done is that I have exported here inside 3D my structure into a project in BIM Server Center, and I've started a new job here in Site Connect that is linked to this project in BIM Server Center. And so what the program will do automatically is take all that data and turn it into native entities here in Site Connect. It works with the OpenSee's engine that is developed by the University of Berkeley, California, and works mostly with a discretization based on the finite element analysis method. As you will see, this program is very flexible and it allows you to get into very nitty-gritty details of how you're going to design each individual union. So for example, in this case, what I've done is that I have set a series of operations in the model tab here for each individual element. And from then on, I've gone forward and customized elements like, for example, the weldings, the plates, the trimmings, the bolts, and so on. It is all done in a chronological fashion, as you can see, and we can customize many different physical properties of each element, like the ones that I'm showing you right now. Once we have our final model ready, we can switch to the analysis tab, and we can put forward all the different analyses, just like we have done in Site3D and in CYPE. We can see the results either visually here, like for example, the form is stress, or the maximum demand capacity ratio of each element. And we can create reports, like summaries of all the quantities that we have generated, as well as all the checks that have been made internally by the engine, like the ones that you can see right here. And just like the reports that we have generated in CypCAD and Site3D, this can also be exported into a PDF file or can be sent by email or printed. In case one of our elements did not comply, we could go back here to the model tab and adjust it accordingly. Like for example, in this case, if we go back to analysis tab, we will see that the bolts do not comply here. As you can see, they are in red. So I can go back here to the model tab and edit manually these bolts right here. So if you go here to bolts, I can add a new one, for example. I can change the spacing between all of them. For example, in regards to the y-axis, I can move them, for example, 30 millimeters, like so. And if we were to go back here to the analysis tab, we could either switch as load cases, which are automatically loaded from CypCAD and Site3D, or we can edit them at our will. Same thing for the load applies, as you can see here. And we can customize the design options, like, for example, the discretization size. As I've said before, Type Connect works with the OpenSee's engine made by the University of California, and it works with a finite element analysis. So depending on the size that you set for the discretization, you will get more accurate results in regards to the use of the bond miss stress, the maximum demand capacity ratio, and so on. I would advise to work mostly with a 15 millimeter discretization size, but if you were to change it, you will see that the tessellation that we have seen before changes in size, and so the results also change as well. Let's analyze it. And as you can see here, in this case, this model does not comply because the plates are too close to the section. So to do this change is a matter of going back and forward with the editor right here. Let's apply this adjustment once more. analyze it. And so going back and forward, we will be able to get to the final results, and we will be able to export it into BIM Server Center. So I will show you here. I have exported all this data into a project. And this project contains the structure that has been generated with CYPE 3D, as well as all the unions that have been generated with CYPE Connect. Just so we have a brief recap of what we have seen up until now in this presentation, I have shown you how to model from start to finish in CypCAD a reinforced concrete structure, which can be later analyzed and can be exported into BIM Server Center, and can also be turned into reports and drawings automatically. I have shown you how to export an architectural model from CYPE architecture and then import it into CypCAD, so you can offload part of the design process to other tools. And I have shown you other tools that we have for steel structures like CYPE 3D, which allows you to work freely in a 3D space, as well as CYPE Connect, which allows you to customize all your unions in case the unions are not built by default into CYPE 3D. And all of this reaping the benefits of working with BIM Server Center, our main hub for all things BIM. So how are we now on time?
Okay, I think the time is up, and we can. I think that's all the time we have for the workshop, for the presentation section of the workshop. Okay, so thank you, Mr. David, for the presentation regarding CypCAD as a BIM software. As we all can see, CypCAD is really flexible, and it has really a lot of utilities and can be used in very many applications. And so if we were to want to know more about CypCAD, I, as the moderator and MC of this Zoom, encourage all of you to ask questions at the Slido, which has been provided in the chat down below. And for any participants that want to ask questions directly to Mr. David, you can raise your hand using this feature on Zoom. And then when I've already allowed you to, you can go ahead and ask the question. Bagi peserta yang memiliki pertanyaan, dapat menyampaikan pertanyaannya pada kolom Slido atau raise hand untuk dipersilahkan oleh aku bertanya pada narasumber via on mic. Nah, okay, so Mr. David, as we can see, there are already questions on this. Can you see the question on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, so there are some questions, and before I choose, is there any particular question you want to answer first?
Well, let's start, for example, with the question being put by Cynthia. She asked us if we can apply BIM into CYPE and if we can, and if we have training courses for that. And indeed, we regularly schedule different kinds of training actions like this one. And if you keep in touch with our distributors at Arquilantis, we can schedule more events like this one or more private ones where you can learn step by step how to work with the software. We also have a YouTube channel as well as a series of courses in Udemy. So if you want to work on your own and learn on your own, you can check us out in CYPE International channel in YouTube, as well as in Udemy if you look our courses right there.
So if any of you want to use CYPE, there are a lot of resources to learn the operation of CYPE. Is that right, Mr. David?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we can move on to the next question, I guess. Okay, from this question is in Indonesian, but let me translate it to you. So Anonymous asked, can CYPE can be adjusted to the standards of Indonesian standards? They asked for the codes and the standards of the software?
Right now, CYPE 3D, and the rest of our structural programs have a series of building codes from around the world implemented. And right now we have, for example, the ones from Singapore, Malaysian, the Eurocode, as well as the British and American ones. So we don't have exactly the SNI, but we are going to implement it into future versions of our software. And in case you are working with the Eurocode or the American or the British codes, you can use them by default.
Oh, okay. So for exactly the SNI standard, there haven't been one, but if you're working with Euro codes or American codes, the participants, everyone here can use CyPCAD. Is that right?
Of course, and if there's enough demand, we could easily launch new versions that have the SNI by default as well.
Okay, thank you for the answer. So moving on, the next question, which one would you like to answer?
So, for example, can we use type software on computer with low-end specs? Of course, after all, as you can see, right now I had multiple instances of CyPCAD running. I had like 10 instances of CyPCAD running on my computer, and it's not a very beefy computer. It's a very standard computer. I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly which are the minimum requirements, but you can look them up into our website. And with this version, with version 2022, we have updated our internal engines. So now we have twice the speed for our computers. So if you were using CyPCAD and Cyte3D in the past and you had problems, right now, I'm sure that the engine flies instead of working.
That's nice to hear. If I may ask, will CyPCAD continue improving in its performance in the future versions?
Of course, there's always room for improvement. As you can see, we're working very hard on internationalization our software and to make it even more flexible for more use cases. That is why we have a BIM Server Center and the store, and that's why we have programs like, for example, Site Connect.
Okay. So there are always room for improvement, and CyPCAD is continue to evolve. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me enter the next question. For the next one, which one would you like to answer? Is it the okay? Let me pick one. Anonymous asked, "Is Cype free, or is there a student version or free version?" Thank you.
There's multiple applications, so it really depends on what you're looking. We have the BIM Essentials, which are completely free of charge. Like, for example, CYPE Architecture, you can start working with it right now. And the BIM Server Center infrastructure is free of charge as well. We also have limited time licenses that you can use. And if you keep in touch with us and you are interested in the software, we could give you a limited time license so you can experience the full experience. We also have agreements with some universities that allow the students to have licenses for the software for all their careers. And right now we are working with multiple universities in Indonesia to be able to allow all the students to have both the licenses as well as the training provided by us.
Okay, so that's the answer for the said question. Oh, there's one question that I'm really intrigued in. Is the second one is from Anonymous. Can we make demolition simulations from BIM or this construction of buildings based on their structural analysis, like finite element analysis? Excuse me.
We do not have a specific tool for demolitions, but we can make simulations of how the structure could work. For example, in a earthquake, we have an internal analysis that allows you to see a real-time model of your structure, and you can see how it could work with high winds as well as with the shaking that you would experience in an earthquake. So yeah, we don't have exactly a tool for demolition simulations, but we have simulations for stream cases preloaded in CyCap and in Cyte3D in case you want a visual representation of that.
And so from CyPCAD, you could also see how the building would work in certain situations, yes?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Next question. There are a lot, and I'm happy that everyone here is very excited about CypCAD, and they are asking many questions. Would you like to choose the next question, Mr. David?
Okay, Mr. Kuyakui says, can SIPE software be used to model massive infrastructures like toll roads and present the model as an animation? Well, SIPECAD is mostly meant for reinforced concrete structures. So if you're working, for example, with a short span bridge, you could easily create a short span bridge. If you want to create a scaffolding or a rooftop for a toll road, you could usually do that with Site 3D, and you could present the model if you were to export it into BIM Server Center and use our augmented reality and virtual reality tools that are completely free of charge. So yeah, you could create massive structures like the one that I have shown you before, this parametric building that twists upon itself. And if you go to our project gallery at site.com, you will see examples of toll roads that have been constructed with Site 3D.
So Snipe is really has a wide range of capabilities, yeah, and it's really nice to hear that it's very compatible with other softwares. Is it? Okay, so we can move on to next question. I would like to ask the very bottom one, the latest one. Excuse me, I cannot see it from the operator. Excuse me. Okay. SIPE is very proficient with concrete reinforced design analysis. How about precast concrete or precast pre-stressed concrete? Can SIPE help all the analysis?
It depends on your use case. If we are working about precast entities that have been made off-site in a factory, we have a series of libraries with all this information already preloaded into the program. But in case you want to analyze a pre-stressed concrete, you can also do that as well. You can add pre-stressed rebar, and you can put forward the analysis as if it were any other kind of rebar. So yeah, you could carry on with precast concrete and pre-stressed concrete on site.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, this may be our last question in this Q&A session, since the time is almost out, but this is going to be the last. I think I'm going to ask this one. Dear Mr. David, can SIPE software support the landscape architecture field, such as the site planning and design process and detailed landscape design?
Of course, we have OpenBIM Site, which is a software that is meant to geolocate your project in a topographic surface. So you can easily take a topographical software from any place in the world and then import it into SIPE architecture. And in SIPE architecture, you can make all kinds of designs, and that includes furniture as well as landscaping. So you could easily use OpenBIM Site and SIPE architecture to create landscape architecture and so on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. David. I think that concludes our Q&A session. Because of the high participancy but sadly our limitation in time, this is the end of our Q&A session, and I would like to remind all the participants, aku mau ingetin semua partisipan untuk jangan lupa kalau misalnya ada pertanyaan, if there are any questions that you haven't asked or you haven't been answered, you could go to the 3D 360 virtual booth on the link bit.ly/3D Expo ICEE 2022. Nah, untuk teman-teman yang punya pertanyaan yang belum sempat dijawab dan ingin tetap ditanyakan dan want to know more tentang SIPE software, bisa aja langsung pergi ke 3D 360 virtual exhibition pada link bit.ly/3D ICEE ICEE 2022. Okay, once again, thank you, Mr. David, for taking your time in showing us a demo and leading this workshop tonight. And it was very nice of you, and SIPE Software to come to ITB's Civil Engineering Expo 2022. And to wrap up today's insightful session, I would like to invite you, Mr. David, to give a final closing statement to our audience in this Zoom meeting.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us here and giving us this opportunity to show us our solutions for structures. And CYPE has over 40 years of experience in this field of knowledge. We have been developing solutions for architecture, engineering, and construction. And our last bet for the fourth industrial revolution is BIM Server Center. It's our bet on BIM software. So it's up to you to start tomorrow using our completely free of charge infrastructure in BIM Server Center, and hit us on the support team at support@cype.com if you have any questions. And as you can see, this is just the beginning. You can start with structures, but you can continue with architectural elements, landscaping, building facilities. We have up to 150 applications in the store. So I'm sure that we have a tool for all your needs.
Thank you. Last but not least, we from the ICEE ITB's committee would like to give you a form of appreciation as a sort of token in the form of a certificate. It's going to be given by you from our representative, Mr. Yusfian Shah Insan. Could you please present the certificate? Okay.
Okay, thank you, MC, for the opportunity. Okay, I'm here as a representative committee of this event. I would like to express our gratitude to Mr. David Didios for the lesson that he has been given to all participants in here. And as a form of appreciation and gratitude, our team has prepared a certificate of appreciation. And to commemorate this moment, we will take a picture as a documentation. Okay, I will read. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Once again, thank you, Mr. David. And now I will give back to MC to continue the next session.
Okay, thank you. I think that's enough for today in this session. And for Mr. David, personally, I would like to say thanks for such a wonderful experience. And if you have any other activities, move on. You may leave the Zoom. And yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you very much for having us here. Have a nice day. Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye. Okay. Oke, teman-teman, tadi kita udah melewati workshop BIM ICEE. Nah, tapi kan kita belum selesai nih acaranya. Aku juga masih banyak banget pesan-pesan. Ada juga door prize, masih banyak banget hal yang bisa dilakuin. Nah, makanya tapi aku mau ingetin dulu, tahun ini kan ICEE nggak cuma datang dengan workshop dan cuma di Zoom conferences, tapi tahun ini ICEE juga mempersembahkan virtual exhibition pertamanya, di mana online virtual exhibition ini teman-teman bisa langsung mengunjungi booth perusahaan, komunikasi langsung dengan perusahaan-perusahaan, dan juga bahkan ada job fair di mana teman-teman bisa ngumpulin CV, upload CV langsung ke perusahaan tersebut. Makanya jangan lupa buat kunjungi website virtual exhibition-nya di bit.ly/3D Expo ICEE 2022. Balik lagi di bit.ly/3D Expo ICEE 2022. Nah, ini kayaknya kita masuk aja nih ke sesi yang nggak kalah ditunggu-tunggu, yaitu sesi door prize. Mungkin aku mau ngasih tahu dulu nih. Jadi di door prize ini bakal ada hadiah dengan total 500.000 ke peserta yang beruntung yang tadi udah ngisi form presensi dan form feedback. Nah, kita bakal pakai wheel of names gini nih. Oke, jadi bakal ada 3 teman-teman kita yang beruntung. Untuk operator, mungkin buat yang pertama aja kali ya. Oke, pertama akan dimenangkan oleh sebesar 100.000 loh yang ini loh. Yang ini pemenangnya 100.000 voucher adalah dari kakak Kikian. Nah, untuk Kak Kiki nanti kalau setelah ini bisa atau mungkin pas sekarang bisa langsung aja kontak Kak Yusfi Ansyaifan Insan atau Kak Yusfi untuk follow through-nya dan supaya bisa dapetin hadiahnya nih. Kita move on ke pemenang kedua. Ayo boleh kali ya untuk operator kita putar lagi. Untuk pemenang kedua akan dapat voucher seharga 150.000. Siapa nih? Ah. Untuk Kak Rasfatin Isnain Nurafi Aziz. Nah, untuk Kak Rasfatin sekali lagi juga, jangan lupa kalau emang mau menangin nih supaya nggak kebakar, langsung aja chat via Zoom atau nanti melalui sosial media Kak Yusfi lewat Zoom ini supaya bisa menangin hadiahnya nih, langsung diklaim hadiahnya biar nggak gosong. Oke. Dan last but not least, pemenang terakhir yang bakal dapat voucher seharga 250.000 yaitu diputar operator. Pemenangnya adalah Kak Friska Prihdiani Muti. Untuk Kak Friska, dipersilakan bahkan untuk semua pemenangnya, tolong jangan lupa untuk hubungi Kak Yusfian Insan untuk mendapatkan hadiahnya. Well, I think that's it for the door prize session. Selamat buat teman-teman yang beruntung mendapatkan hadiahnya. Yang banyak-banyak lumayan bisa untuk jajan-jajan atau mungkin ya untuk apa aja. Yang penting ya happy lah ya dapat hadiah. Oke. Karena kita sudah udah deket-deket penghujung acara dan udah cukup larut malam ya. Aku karena udah habis, tapi ada yang kurang kalau kita belum document this moment supaya kita bisa ingat selamanya. Apalagi buat teman-teman yang udah menangin door prize supaya bisa diingat nih. Tapi sebelum foto, aku mau ingetin ngasih tahu beberapa hal nih. Pertama, tahun ini Student Conference ICEE membuka sesi pemaparan narasumber untuk umum dan gratis terkait tema Lean Construction yang merupakan suatu solusi mewujudkan industri konstruksi yang efektif dan efisien. Acara ini juga menemukan narasumber ahli di bidangnya dan pada acara ini juga akan dikupas secara tuntas nih gimana aplikasi Lean Construction dapat digunakan di setiap fase proyek konstruksi. Enggak itu juga, ada lagi nih yang aku mau open mau bagi-bagi. Oh ya, buat yang Lean Construction ini daftarnya di bit.ly/lean101 registration ya. Lean-nya L-nya gede dan R-nya gede. Nah, aku nggak mau nyampein ini juga nih, ada lagi yang bakal sampein. Nah, mungkin buat dari operator bisa ditunjukin juga nih yang aku pengen sampainya nih. Jadi untuk teman-teman jangan lupa ya untuk share feedbacknya tentang workshop CYPE Day One workshop hari ini supaya kita juga lebih bisa tahu nih gimana teman-teman would like to see workshop in day-day ke depannya, karena ICEE ini nggak cuma sampai hari ini doang, bakal ada juga seminar nasional dengan tema Optimizing Sustainable Construction Through Digital Transformation. Ini bakal diisi juga oleh tentunya ahli-ahli yang oke banget di bidangnya masing-masing, dari itu akademisi, praktisi, dan juga pemerintah. Daftar ya di ICEE.itb.com. Habis itu teman-teman join, klik bagian main event, atau langsung aja ke link bit.ly/seminar ICEE 2022. Ini gratis, cuma upload Twibbon aja di Instagram, dan post ini Twibbonnya bisa diakses melalui bit.ly/Twibbon seminar ICEE. Oke, karena kayaknya buat promosi-promosi dari aku tentang ICEE udah sampai sini aja nih. Tapi ayo kita foto dulu lah ya, supaya aku juga bisa inget momen ini ya untuk beberapa saat ke depan, mungkin tahun bisa puluhan tahun, dan semoga ini gives a lasting impression buat teman-teman. Nah, semoga selain itu juga aku mau ingetin nih buat teman-teman untuk on cam pada saat dokumentasi dan gunakan VBG yang telah diberikan. Oke, aku tunggu juga nih selagi menunggu. Aku mau ini aja sih ngobrol-ngobrol tentang virtual exhibition ya udah ngomong-ngomong, karena kalau teman-teman datang pas lagi open gate itu kan sempat ada previewnya, dan itu tentu menarik banget, teman-teman bisa interact langsung melalui berbagai kesempatan lain dengan company-company besar yang ada di industri civil engineering, dan tentunya bisa ada job fair banyak banget. Nah, oke, karena mungkin udah ini aja teman-teman, aku tunggu ya teman-teman untuk on cam dan gunakan VBG-nya. Dan untuk sesi dokumentasi mungkin aku serahkan ke panitia operasional kali ya. Untuk panitia gimana?
Oke, jadi
Oke.
aku bakal bantu untuk dokumentasi. Ada 8 slide ya. Kita mulai dari slide 1 dulu. 1, 2, 3. Oke, slide kedua. 1, 2, 3. Slide ketiga. 1, 2, 3. Slide keempat. 1, 2, 3. Slide kelima. 1, 2, 3. Slide ke-6. 1, 2, 3. Dan slide ke-7. 1, 2, 3. Oke, thank you. Aku kembalikan ke MC.
Oke, thank you untuk panit operasional. Nah, mungkin buat terakhir lagi, aku mau bilang say thank you buat teman-teman udah datang workshop hari ini. Semoga insightful, semoga teman-teman juga bisa coba softwarenya aja langsung CYPE dan kita bisa bertemu lagi di next opportunities karena it has been a fun night. Teman-teman, jangan lupa untuk ikutin rangkaian acara ICEE 2022 lagi. Dan untuk stay in touch-nya dengan ICC 2022, jangan lupa untuk follow semua kanal sosial medianya. Karena ICEE ini udah banyak banget kolaborasinya dengan berbagai national and international companies sebagai eksibitor. Jadi, it's very disayangkan lah ya kalau if you guys miss out on it. Nah, keep yourself updated with by our social media for more information. Di email iceeetb@gmail.com, Instagram iceeetb, Twitter @iceeetb, Facebook dan LinkedIn @ITB Civil Engineering Expo Expo, and website @iceeetb.com. Nah, kayaknya sekian aja dari aku. Aku bentar lagi bakal pamit undur diri. Jangan lupa untuk ya have fun and thank you banget. Semoga kita bisa bertemu di lain waktu. Saya Dwika Bugari, signing out. Bye. Selamat kalau buat teman-teman yang ingin meninggalkan sebelumnya udah dipersilakan ya. Bye bye everyone. Oke, buat teman-teman sekali lagi aku udah merimain lagi buat teman-teman kalau misalnya udah pengen leave Zoom meetingnya udah dipersilakan ya. Buat sesi workshop hari ini udah selesai. Thank you for coming and see you soon. Oke. Buat teman-teman yang masih mungkin belum live juga, mungkin selagi ini aku mau ingetin jangan lupa ya untuk cek our virtual exhibition di bit.ly/3D Expo ICEE ITB 2022 and juga follow kanal sosial media kita. See you soon dan see you on our next workshops. See you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Untuk semua teman-teman yang udah masih ada di sini, kalau memang udah pengen have fun sendiri, have a little me time, udah dipersilakan untuk keluar dari Zoom-nya ya. Thank you. Untuk semua partisipan yang sudah mungkin ingin meninggalkan ruangan Zoom, udah dipersilakan ya. Terima kasih. Terima kasih untuk semua partisipan, untuk semua peserta yang udah datang hari ini. See you on our next event. Dan untuk semua teman yang ingin sudah masih ada di sini, udah dipersilakan buat pergi saja, buat leave the Zoom. Thank you.